This video is sponsored by Squarespace, an all-in-one platform to build your business online.
Well, hello there!
Today's video is gonna be ghoul-tastic. A while ago I asked y'all for your favorite Monster High character with the intention of a potential series. To let the cat out of the bag, I'm going to be redesigning some original Monster High characters how I would have made them in my style if I would have been the head of design for them, and on top of that turn them into 16-inch ball-jointed dolls. I want to make the whole dolls myself because I want to take the customization to a whole other level, and because the dolls are bigger I can even add more details. And also the Monster High Generation 3 dolls are still really hard to get in Germany.
Since she's one of the most popular characters and one of my personal favorites, today we will start with a fierce, beautiful, confident boss babe CLAWDEEN wolf.
There's a lot to do here, so how about we start by mixing some resin so we can print her in the right shade of skin tone. Let's go! We have to mix some resin. So, in order to mix CLAWDEEN's skin tone, I'm taking a big old measuring cup and start off with the regular beige skin tone resin. I pour it in and we'll be using an old CLAWDEEN Generation 1 doll I still had as a reference. I want to mix her skin tone as close to the original as I can. For achieving the shade, I use different shades of brown resin pigments that I'm mixing into the beige resin and stir it well in between to distribute the pigments well. It is getting there. For getting the more sun-kissed look of CLAWDEEN's skin, I add some yellow and red to the resin mix as well. This looks really good. Let's make a little test. Okay, so I made a little curing test and that is exactly the color. It might differ a bit on the cam, but trust me, it is the color. Ah, nice! Okay, then we can print. Yay! With the skin tone finished mixing, I then add the forbidden soup into my Saturn II printer and then let the print run. I will be printing my Nova doll body for CLAWDEEN with a custom face, ears and hands made by the wonderful Blue Pixie art. Okay, so I wanted to make a really cool transition from starting the 3D print to the finished 3D print. Turns out my 3D printer is not cooperating. So as you can see, I've been having extreme troubles with my 3D printer. Like, these prints all failed. Like, the hand I first thought is okay, then I saw that some of the fingers weren't printed, and I don't really know what it is. I think it has something to do with the settings, and maybe because I dyed the resin, even though I did it before and I never had trouble like this ever before. Nevertheless, I'm trying now to print some of the pieces on my small Mars 3 printer, and let's just hope this works, because this printer has been printing really nicely lately, so yeah. Keep y'all fingers crossed. Okay, so while I'm waiting for all the doll parts to print, I misprinted the hat beforehand. So at least I can use that, and made already a wig cap. So how about we make the wig now? In the meantime, we are waiting for the doll parts to print. Let's do that. I really wanted to give CLAWDEEN some box braids because I feel it would fit her so well. In order to make the hair, I will actually be using this satin cord. It's made of cotton and polyamide, and I can just take one strand for a weft, unravel it like this, and end up with a super curly fiber. This fiber I can then straighten with my hair iron on low temperature at around 120 degrees Celsius. One folded strand will be one weft, aka one braid later on. As you can see, I already prepared the wig cap with my misprinted faceplate so we can make the wig. However, before we can glue all the wefts and braid them, I will first need to sketch out a pattern for the braids on the wig cap that will also help me as a guide where to place all the wefts. I use some acrylic paint in the same shade as the hair and paint all the little squares until it looks something like this. Awesome! With the wig cap now prepared, I then take the first weft, which I already folded around a little, and glue it to the wig with some OOAK glue. I wait a moment until it has dried and then start braiding the strand down until the end of it. To secure the end again, I use some OOAK glue and spread it a bit on the end of the weft. Great! Now I simply glue the braid down completely onto the cap and our first braid is done. Now I just have to repeat this step about 60 or so times for the rest of the wig. I wish finger snapping would actually braid the strands like this. For some pop of color, I will also add some purple strands and some neon yellow-green strands. And then I just basically keep gluing and braiding. Not gonna lie, it took so much longer than I would have thought. Softbox behind me. Oh my god, this wig is taking forever. Oh my god, I really underestimated how long the braiding and everything takes, because you have to glue and braid and glue and braid and glue and braid. I really have to finish this week today, so wish me luck. We can do this. I decided to go for a little time lapse here to show you how I finished the gluing and braiding before styling the wig. Okay, so this will all be in a hair bun. So let's try to make a hair bun. I of course don't have a hairband here. With the hair elastic added, the wig is done and I am absolutely living for this hairstyle. I always imagine Claudine with a cool braided hairstyle, and I can't wait for how she will look like with her painted face and her outfit. She will be such a boss babe. Do you want to be a fierce boss babe? Thanks to today's sponsor, Squarespace, you can easily become one. With Squarespace, you can easily build your own beautiful website and online shop with beautiful templates that guarantee a clean and professional look. Never accidentally blow up pictures again thanks to image blocks. Your image will automatically be sized to make sure it always looks great, no matter how you place it in your content. Just drag and drop the images into position. And if you're ready for boss babe entrepreneurship, you can even open your own online store with Squarespace. No matter if digital or physical products, Squarespace has the right tools to start selling your art online, starting today. You can even connect your social media by just changing the links and icons. Wow! Like the anime wow here. Wow. So if you are ready for a fantastic deal, check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/moonlightjewel to get 10% of your first purchase of a domain or website using my code moonlightjewel. That's squarespace.com/moonlightjewel, code moonlightjewel. Thank you again, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video, and now let's see if my printer finally cooperated. It freaking finally worked out. Oh my god. Little Mice 3 printer. Good job. Good job. Okay, now I just need to cure all the parts and then fast forward to all the finished pieces. But first, what about some crunchy ASMR? Finally, all the pieces are printed. Wow! After days of failed prints and cluelessness as to why, having my doll bowl finally full of the parts felt so good. And she's so pretty. I love her face, the little Claudine-like hands and the ears so much. I think she perfectly resembles Claudine, but with a unique touch. Unfortunately, the pieces came out way lighter than I thought, because resin is weird and it is really hard to get a dark saturated skin tone. So what I tried now is shading the pieces, and that is pretty much exactly her skin tone. So we have to do that with all the pieces now. If the printing didn't take long enough already, I now had to shade the pieces, and first started by using pastel chalks, but wasn't satisfied with the quality of the shading, so I switched to my good old friend, the airbrush. Haven't seen her in a while because cleaning that thing is a nightmare, but airbrushing worked absolute wonders here. I mean, look at how nice all the parts look now. Wow! I'm glad I was able to get the shade of skin tone as close to the original Claudine as possible. For comparison, I put my Generation 1 Claudine next to the pieces. On camera and in different light, it always looks slightly different, but it is really close to her original skin tone, and I cannot wait to customize her. Before I can put it together, I need to glue quite some magnets. I start by putting them into the wrist joints and hands. To get them into the hands, I use some blue tack on a Q-tip again. Best working method for me. Then I do the same with the ankle joints and the feet. And also adding a bunch of magnets to the head bag because her ears will be magnetic later on. I then of course glue some magnets into the ears as well, and then I just have to glue the last few magnets into her head bag and face so that they will snap together neatly as well. With some S-hooks prepped from Clippy's family, I then start by stringing her with an elastic of the length of my iPhone. I insert it through the armholes and then thread the arm pieces on like beads and secure the ends of the arms with some wooden sticks before hooking on the wrist joints and removing the sticks for a perfectly strung arm. I needed some help from my assistant Leon here. Arms are assembled and they look so pretty already. For the body elastic, I take the rubber band with the length of a beer bottle and then thread on the doll parts, starting with the head back, then upper, middle and lower torso. Here I split the rubber band in half and then thread on the legs as well, securing the ends with sticks again before finishing them up with the ankle joints. Looks good! Let's put on her face and ears. Oh, she's so cute already! Let's see how she looks like in a full body shot. Seeing Claudine fully assembled like this makes me feel so excited for this project. I really cannot wait to make her outfit and paint her face. Also, the size difference to the OG Monster High dolls is definitely significant, but I just enjoy the bigger scale so much because of the sheer amount of details I can add and how realistic I can make it look. Well, hopefully. How about we start with her face up today? I'm so excited for that. I start by dusting on my favorite skin shimmering micro glitters first before taking some beautiful pink shades of pastel chalk dust and carefully starting to blush her face. I first add some blushing to the cheeks before changing brushes and adding some lip color as well with a darker shade of pink. I thought she could use some more blushing, so I add some forehead blushing as well. Alright, time to sketch her eyeliner. I first like to sketch out the initial shape of the liner with some pencils, so I have a good guideline of where to use acrylic paints later on. I just give her a simple wing liner with a cute inner corner moment, and then felt like sketching out her eyebrows already as well to see the full picture of the eye makeup better. You want to make sure to place the eyebrows at the exact height that balances the face nicely. For the shape, I wanted to give her a fierce brow that still looked kind of a good balance between OG Generation 1 Claudine and Generation 3. I actually really enjoy the new Generation 3 dolls, especially the different body types and heights make them so cool. When I'm gonna make more Monster High redesigns, I definitely want to make the other characters have different body types and heights as well. When I was all satisfied with the brows, I can then take my acrylic paint and line the eyeliner. After lining the black eyeliner, I then take some purple, as it's one of Claudine's signature colors, and give her a purple eyeliner on top of the black one. After painting her some lime green yellow eyeliner as well on one eye already, I decided to fill in her lips because I wanted to give her a gradient type lip, which did not work as I had planned, but more on that later. After filling her lips in, I then take the same yellow-green paint and add the liner to the other eye as well. And kind of messed up the line here. Oops. Yeah, I need to correct that. Fixed it. Luckily, it was an easy fix. I then just add the second eyeliner line on top of it before trying to shade the lips into a gradient, which just did not work the way I wanted to. Okay, before I continue with the mouth, I decided to draw the lashes. So yeah, I thought taking a break from shading the lips and painting the lashes would make me reflect on the choices I did a little better, so I painted the lashes with my smallest nail art brush and some gouache paint. Woohoo, they look so nice! Yes! I then just do the same on the other eye and then shade the lashes with a little bit of dark brown and black pastel chalk dust to blend them into the face up. Okay, I gave up on the gradient lip. I just can't make it work, so in homage to original Claudine, she will get dark red lipstick now. Yeah, the gradient gods did not hear my prayers, so I decided to give Claudine some dark red lipstick as the original Claudine had that as well. It looked super pretty, and before finishing up the lips I decided to paint the little fangs white with some white acrylic paint. I then added some pastel chalk dust to the lips and ended up with a pretty gradient lip. What is happening here? Anyways, let's just roll with it and add some beautiful iridescent shimmers to the cheeks because she has to glow like a star. I spread it with different brushes to my desired intensity and then seal her off with another layer of Mr. Super Clear. And then we can add gloss! I like to add gloss to the lower waterline because it gives the face up such a nice touch, and then decided to gloss her lips as well. And with that the gradient kind of disappeared again, rip. But it still looks super gorgeous, I think. In hindsight, maybe a matte gloss topped with a shiny gloss would have been a better call to keep the gradient. Maybe something to try another time. Time to glue lashes. For gluing them, I used some white PVA glue and spread it on the inside of the upper lid before carefully adding the lash and pressing it on when the glue became a little more tacky. Last but not least, I just draw on some baby hairs to blend in with a wig cap later on neatly, and with that the face up is all done. I really love her face so much, and I think with the makeup and colors she really looks like Clawdeen. Before we make the eyes, I still gotta add some shading and blushing to the ears so that they have a little more dimension by adding some pink and brown pastel chalk dust. And some glitter, of course. Awesome! But now I really want to make her eyes to see the full picture of her face. To make them, I will take this silicone eye mold, and I already mixed some forbidden frosting that I will now pour into the eye mold to make the eye bases. After curing it for a couple minutes under my UV lamp, it is time to demold, and I end up with 2 really pretty eye bases. Yay! Clawdeen's eyes are yellow golden, so the first thing I do is painting the iris yellow with my yellow Posca marker. To make them more golden, I then dust on some golden micro glitter. Now we can add the pupil by using a tiny black rhinestone, and to secure it in place I drop some UV resin on top of them and cure it under my UV lamp for a minute. After that I simply add some shimmers and glitter to the eye to my liking, cure everything, and then dome the eyes a final time with some UV resin. After the final curing they look like this, and I love how shimmery they are. So how about we insert them into her face? With some editing magique it looks very smooth, and I just love her. Like, look at that face. Ah. I cannot wait to make her outfit now. I really want to do her justice though, so I actually sketched out something. For Clawdeen's outfit I wanted to make something in my style, but also something that screams Clawdeen Wolf, so I came up with this sketch. I want to give her a bralette top, a cool skirt with flames on the bottom and golden letters, a tiny green shirt with long sleeves, a fur jacket with pink highlights, some over the knee, over the top boots, and a choker and some accessories. As for materials, I'm going to be using this black shiny pleather, the old green shirt fabric that I already used on my Nova doll, this purple fur fabric, this pink pleather for the choker, and this purple pleather for the boots, and top everything off with rhinestone chains and zippers. So how about we start with the top? To make the little bralette, I first clean up the cups of the bra like this by sewing the darts and gluing around the top seam allowance. I then take the chest band that I cleaned up already and will then glue the cups in place with some OOAK glue. I carefully place them and let them dry before top stitching them. Afterwards, I put the top on one of my Nova dolls and added some rings for the straps already. Now I carefully thread the bra straps through the ring and glue it in place. I marked where the strap has to go on the back, then take off the bralette and glue it in place safely without spreading glue on the doll. I then glue the second bra strap the same way, and with a closure added to the back, the bralette top is already done. I think it looks super cool already and pretty realistic. Let's make the Let's make the skirt next, shall we? I cut the pattern pieces from the same material as the bralette and first sew the darts on the back pieces finished sides in. Then I'm taking the front piece of the skirt and slap it on along the side seams, good sides in as well. I then wanted to clean up the bottom seams and ended up making the skirt again to eliminate the side seams because they just look too bulky. It looks all nice and clean now, so I can now close the back seam until the closure part like this. For the next step, it was easier to put the skirt onto the doll so I can glue the straps along the thighs easier. I place both strips to the front first and then glue them to the back. To add the golden letters to Clawdeen's skirt, I first cut them with a plotting machine from golden self-adhesive vinyl. After having fun with my reflection in the vinyl, I then weed out the letters carefully with an X-Acto knife and also remove all the little inlays of the letters. For the next step, I remove one letter from the sheet, place it sticky sides up and spray it with water, and then add the mirrored letter, spray it with water too, and try to align them as exact as I can. Now we have golden letters that we can add to one side of the skirt. I simply glue them on with OOAK glue. You can see I made a chain belt already by literally just hooking some chains together, and I think it looks really neat together with the skirt and the golden letters. Now the last thing missing on the skirt are the flames, because this outfit is lit. Sorry. So I first sketched them out roughly with a pastel chalk pen before borrowing the ink of an acrylic marker to paint them in a pretty acid green. My camera decided the green was too acid, so it blurred out the footage here partially, but I simply lined the outlines before filling in the green with the marker and cleaning up some parts with a brush again. I also paint the edges of the fabric with green, and to finish off the flames, what do we need? Right, glitter! I mixed some water and PVA glue and spread it all over the flames before letting glitter in a neon green shade fall from the sky. Well, from my container. I spread it generously and then carefully dab and blow off the excess and end up with glam rock glitter flames. They need to dry now so I can dust off the remaining loose glitter, so I decided to add glitter to the front part of the skirt as well in the same way and end up with glitter all over my studio that I will probably never get rid of anymore. Not that it's a bad thing. But anyways, the skirt is done and I'm living for this. I honestly wish I had this piece for myself. It's so damn cool. To make the tiny acid green top, I first cut the pattern pieces from my old top. This pattern is actually an altered super stretch minifee pattern from DJ Requiem, and it fits Nova perfectly. With all the pieces neatly cut, I can then proceed and attach the sleeve front seams to the front piece, finished sides in first. Afterwards, I fold it open and then slap on the back pieces like magic. Fantastic! I already ironed all the seam allowances flat and now need to glue around the neckline seam allowances, the bottom seam allowances on the front and back pieces, and also the bottom seam allowances of the sleeves. And boom! Now we can finally close the sleeve seams finished sides in. I like to pin them neatly before sewing so they don't shift so much, and will do the same on the other side. And now just the closure is missing and we have a cute micro crop top, is it called like that? I really like this and I can't wait how it will look together with the bra and the rest of the outfit. Since Claudine is a werewolf, she absolutely needs a fur jacket, am I right?
On all levels except physical, I am a wolf.
So I cut the pieces for the jacket out of the long purple fur fabric already, and first we'll sew the shoulder seams together, finished sides in. I kind of forgot the darts, so let's also sew them. Just always make sure the fibers are nicely placed away from your seam towards the finished side of the piece. Nice! Now we can also slap on the sleeves good sides in as well, and I end up with this big furry piece. I then proceed and glue around the bottom seam allowances of the sleeves before I can finally close the sleeves and side seams, finished sides in. I pin it in place neatly before sewing and end up with this almost finished jacket. Now I just have to flip it inside out with the help of a pencil and can then actually use a pad brush to comb the fibers in place. I never thought I would comb a jacket, but it really makes a difference. I can now glue around the bottom, front and neck seam allowances as well with my Uhu Alleskleber. To give the jacket a little more pizzazz, how about we add a golden zipper? I take a small piece of it, pin it in place and then sew it on like this. And to finish off the jacket with the pink highlights, we made these neon pink yarn wefts and I will now glue them to the jacket. To do that, I comb the fibers up a little bit, glue the weft in and then place the fibers on top of it to hide the top of the weft. I then proceed to do that a couple more times on the jacket and try to spread the pink highlights evenly throughout it. And with this last step, the fur jacket is done. The pink highlights really give it a bit of a unique touch and the golden zipper just looks really pretty, I think. Alright, let's make the coolest part of the whole outfit, the boots! I already made a pattern and will now cut that 4 times from this really pretty purple platter, that's a lot of piece, with a cheetah print. I trace it onto the backside with a pencil, cut it out and end up with 4 boot pieces. I will prepare the boots for the bases now by sewing together the bottom of the back seam allowance first. Then it is time for the toxic booger glue, aka contact glue, to be spread on the seam allowances of the back seam so I can then glue down the seam allowances so the seam is nice and flat. I also glue down the seam allowances on the upper back seams because I will be inserting a zipper later on. Once they're glued down, I then take a zipper in the closest shade I had and will place it onto the boot like this. Okay, so I'm trying to sew this with my zipper foot and yeah. Let's see if I can make it work and so you guys can see. To sew it in, I will use a zipper foot on my sewing machine. I tried to place the cam nice and close to the main event here so you guys can see how I sew in the zipper, and then change the angle so you can see how I go along the edges, turning the whole thing 90 degrees at the bottom of the foot before going up again and sewing the rest of the zipper in. With the whole thing in nicely, I can then cut off the excess of the zipper, burn off the edges to keep it from fraying, and then open up the zipper so we can sew the front seam. I don't pin this but clip it in place because I don't want to punch holes into the fabric. With the seam sewn in place and contact cement spread all over, I then glue down the seam allowances as well so that everything will lay nice and flat. Meanwhile, the shoe bases that Blue sculpted were done printing and I just needed to wait for them to cure under my curing station. I flipped the boot pieces inside out already, which was not that easy, but I made it work, and will now spread Uhu glue all over the shoe bases so I can then glue the boot pieces onto the shoe bases and press them on firmly until the glue has dried. To finish up the top of the boot, I decided to make a shiny pleather stripe like this, then add some contact adhesive to it and to the top of the boot from outside and inside, and then carefully glue on the top piece, folding it towards the front for a nice, neat and clean finish. I also cut off the excess fabric of the boot along the heel and glued it down. To cover up the edges on that on the sole, I cut a black cardboard piece and glue it to the bottom of the sole like this. With a toothpick, I can press it in place easier. Afterwards, I then paint the brim of the sole with black acrylic paint, and then it is time to accessorize the boots, my favorite part. For making some tiny buckles, I covered some clear PVC sheet with a golden vinyl and cut out the buckle shapes with my X-Tool M1 and the blade cutting function. They looked really nice and I can now break them out of the plastic sheet and also remove the little inlays. And we have a teeny tiny buckle. I then do the same thing a couple more times and end up with 12 little buckles. To make the buckle straps, I cut a bunch of small stripes from the purple pleather and prepare them by threading the buckle on like this. And then it is time to glue them into place onto the boots with some Uhu glue. For easier handling, I decided to put the boot on one of my Nova dolls and continue gluing on the straps until I have 4 straps in total on the bottom of the boot. To add more glamour to the shoes, I add a rhinestone chain to the bottom of the shoe just above the brim. And then I add 2 more buckle straps on top of the boot. And also a little rhinestone chain on the black top part of the boot. For the final touches on the boot, I decided to add a chain and rhinestone chain to the back of the zipper and let both chains go around the boot to the inside of the leg where I glue them in place. And then I printed, painted and glossed some tiny cones that I will be adding as studs to the boot. I glue the smaller ones to the front of the boot and the bigger ones on the heel of the boot. I just thought this bit of edginess fits the whole look of my Clawdeen really well. To finish off the boots, I finally just add some crescent moons that I cut the same way as the buckles and glue them to the side of the boots. Woo! We're done!
And yeah, we are finally done with the boots, and I think these are my best doll shoes so far. I love how they look and I really wish I had a pair of these for myself. Okay, one more little last thing before this doll is done. Let's make Clawdeen a choker. I cut some very small strips from pink holographic pleather already and will glue them together like this first. I then cut off and fold around the overlap and added a tiny little ring on top and will now also add another one on the bottom of it. To give the choker more stability, I add another vertical strip in the same way as I added the first one and also added a little ring on the bottom of it. After adding a third vertical strip, I then attach some golden chains to the rings and make some pretty loops with them. Just make sure they have the same exact length, because just one little chain element difference will show immediately. Not that it ever happened to me before.
It's false. No way. Not this time.
For some more details, I decided to add tiny little golden studs to the choker by gluing on some nail art studs that I still had in my stash. And to be able to add a closure later, I just covered the ends of the choker with some thicker pleather stripes and ended up adding a teeny tiny magnet as a closure later on. This seemed like the most elegant solution, and this way the choker is also very easy to attach on the doll. And yeah, I think with that we got it, guys. My first Monster High redesign ball jointed doll. Let me present to you Clawdeen Wool.
all done. I'm so happy how she turned out and I can't wait to make more Monster High characters. Who should I do next? As always, a big shout out to all of my patrons. You make this possible and I couldn't thank you more. Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for watching and see you soon in the next video. Bye!